Margaret Hale made 3 decisions in August 1977 that she would spend the rest of her life trying to undo. The first was taking the council house at 29 Wycliffe Road. The second was telling the children it would be a fresh start. The third was ignoring what Emily said she saw in the back bedroom window before they'd even moved in. What you're about to hear is a reconstructed account from a family living on Wycliffe Road in Bramblehurst, Norfolk, during 1977, who reported a pattern of unexplained activity inside their home, activity that followed them until they left. The separation from Thomas happened fast, not violent, just the slow collapse of 2 people who'd stopped being able to look at each other. Margaret was left with 2 children in a 1-bedroom flat above a betting shop in Norwich. Daniel was 15, quiet, already holding things together. Emily was 9, small for her age, with dark hair she chewed when she was anxious. The council office called on a Tuesday, a property in Bramblehurst, 20 minutes outside Norwich. 2 bedrooms, available immediately. The rent was half what Margaret expected. She asked why. The woman paused before saying the previous tenants had left due to family circumstances. They went Thursday. Number 29 was the last house on Wycliffe Road, backing onto overgrown wasteland. The brick was that particular shade of post-war council grey, and the windows were narrow, the kind that let in light, but never quite enough of it. Behind the house, a collapsed iron fence marked where the property ended and the scrubland began. Wild grass, brambles, the kind of terrain that suggested nobody had cared about it in decades. Margaret stood at the front gate while Daniel explored the perimeter and Emily stayed in the car. The house felt functional, nothing more. No charm, no particular defect, just space. Space they desperately needed. Emily finally got out of the car and walked to the back of the property. She stared up at the window of what would become the back bedroom, tilted her head, and said something Margaret couldn't quite hear. When Margaret asked her to repeat it, Emily just shook her head and went back to the car. They moved in the following Saturday. Bramblehurst in 1977 was the kind of town where economic stagnation had settled in like damp. The council estates were aging badly, and people didn't talk about it. They just lived with peeling paint and cracks in the plaster. Number 29 was no different. Semi-detached, narrow stairwell, the back bedroom facing that scrubland, and the remnants of the fence. The first night, Emily refused to sleep in the back bedroom. Not dramatically, she simply said she didn't like it and asked to share with Daniel. Margaret, too tired to argue, agreed. She took the back room herself. The smell hit her around midnight, faint but distinct, metallic, earthy, like soil after heavy rain mixed with something older. She checked the window seals, the corners, under the bed. Nothing. The smell seemed to come from one corner only, near the wardrobe, and it didn't spread. She opened the window, but the air outside was dry and still. In the morning, the smell was gone. Daniel noticed the grit on the stairs first. Fine, gray particles, almost like sand, collecting near the top step. Margaret assumed it was tracked in from outside, but they hadn't worn shoes upstairs. She swept it away. The next morning, it was back. Same spot, same texture. The doors became an irritation within the first week. They wouldn't slam. Nothing so dramatic. They just wouldn't stay shut. The back bedroom door in particular. Margaret would pull it closed before bed, hear the latch click, and wake to find it open just enough to let a sliver of light through. She checked the hinges, tested the frame. Everything seemed aligned. Daniel started keeping a notebook. He didn't tell Margaret at first, just began writing down small things. The grit on the stairs appeared every morning except Sunday. The back bedroom door only opened at night, never during the day. The bathroom lock turned halfway, but never fully engaged, no matter how hard you twisted it. You know, in those first couple of weeks, Margaret convinced herself it was just the house settling. Old construction, post-war materials, the kind of thing you live with when you're grateful to have a roof at all. But then the objects started moving. Not thrown, not scattered, just relocated. Margaret would leave her work shoes by the wardrobe and find them by the front door, neatly aligned. Daniel's coat moved from the hallway peg to a chair near the entrance. Emily's sketchbook appeared on the bottom stair, open to a blank page, even though she insisted she'd left it on the kitchen table. The suggestions were clear. Leave. The scraping sounds began in the third week. Daniel woke first. It was this slow, irregular rhythm, like someone digging carefully, methodically. The noise came from beneath the floorboards of the back bedroom, directly below where Margaret slept. Daniel got up, stood in the hallway, and listened. The moment he reached for the light switch, it stopped. He checked his watch. 3:12 a.m. The next night, the same sound, the same time. He woke Margaret. They stood together in the hallway, listening to the deliberate scrape and pause, scrape and pause. When Margaret opened the back bedroom door, silence flooded in like a held breath released. "Pipes," Margaret said, though her voice carried no conviction. Daniel started waking at 3:12 every night without fail. Not from the sound, before it. His body knew somehow when it was coming. He'd lie there with pressure building in his chest as if the floor below was inhaling, and wait for the scraping to begin. Emily stopped calling it a person. She started referring to the cold place. Not the back bedroom, the cold place. She'd stand in the hallway and point to the doorway without crossing the threshold, explaining that past that point, the air changed. Margaret tested it herself one afternoon, walking slowly from the hallway into the room, and there it was, a temperature drop so sharp it felt like stepping into a cellar. Margaret, a nurse who'd worked night shifts in underfunded hospitals, who'd seen things that would hollow out most people, started missing work. The exhaustion was different from anything she'd experienced. Not physical tiredness, something deeper, like her body was spending energy just by being in the house. The cracks appeared next. Margaret had patched the plaster in the back bedroom during the second week, hairline fractures in the wall near the window. 3 days later, they were back. Identical placement, identical width. She patched them again. They returned overnight. Daniel found the nails one morning, scattered on the floor near the bed. Old nails, the kind used in post-war construction, loosened from the floorboards without explanation. He collected them, put them in a jar. The next morning, more had appeared. The smell intensified, but only in that room. Never spreading, never fading. That same metallic, earthy scent, stronger now, almost oppressive. Margaret opened the window every night. It made no difference. Then the damp patches started forming, long, rectangular, inconsistent with any plumbing or roof leak. Margaret called a contractor who examined the room, checked the ceiling, the walls, the floor. He found no source. The damp simply appeared, always in the same shape, always in the same location. Daniel measured it one afternoon while Margaret was at work. 6 feet 3 inches by 2 feet 8 inches, the dimensions of a grave. He didn't tell Margaret immediately. He wanted to be sure. He measured again. Same results. He stood there in the back bedroom, notebook in hand, and asked the question aloud to no one in particular. Why this room? Well, that night, Emily locked herself in the bathroom. Margaret found her sitting in the empty tub, fully clothed, knees pulled to her chest. Emily said the floor was listening, not the walls, not the air, the floor itself. She could feel it paying attention, waiting for something. Margaret called the police. Not because she believed in ghosts, she didn't, not really, but because her 9-year-old daughter was terrified and she didn't know what else to do. Inspector Thomas Gray arrived just after 8. Mid-40s, the kind of steady, skeptical presence you'd expect from local police in a small Norfolk town. He'd taken domestic calls, disturbances, the occasional break-in. This was filed as a welfare check, nothing more. He walked through the house with Margaret, asked standard questions, checked the locks. Everything seemed normal until they reached the back bedroom. A framed photo on the dresser, Margaret's parents, taken years ago, turned face down while they stood there. No vibration, no movement they could detect. It simply tilted forward and settled flat against the wood. Gray stared at it for a long moment, then looked at the door. The back bedroom door, which Margaret had propped open with a stack of books, drifted closed against the airflow. Slowly, deliberately, until the latch clicked. The inspector tested the window, closed. No draft, no explanation. He filed a neutral report later that night, language carefully chosen to avoid specifics. But before he left, he pulled Margaret aside and suggested quietly that she might want to consider other accommodation. She asked him what he meant. He said he didn't know exactly, just that sometimes a house isn't worth the trouble. Evelyn Ward arrived on a Wednesday afternoon without fanfare. She was 62, gray hair pulled back, dressed plainly. Known locally as someone who helped find lost things, who occasionally assisted families with what she called unfinished business. She didn't advertise, didn't charge, and most importantly, didn't perform. She'd heard about the house through Gray, who'd mentioned it in passing to the parish clerk, who'd mentioned it to Mrs. Ward. She walked through the ground floor slowly, touching nothing, saying little. When she reached the stairs, she paused, climbed halfway, stopped. She looked at the back bedroom door from the landing and shook her head. "I won't go in there," she said. Margaret asked why. Mrs. Ward chose her words carefully. "This isn't a presence, it's a boundary dispute. Something was covered instead of finished." She turned to Margaret with an expression that carried no drama, no mysticism, just tired certainty. Ignoring it will escalate the pressure, not the activity. But it won't harm you, it's just trying to be acknowledged. That evening, Margaret received the historical archive from the council, St. Bartholomew's Cemetery, decommissioned in 1923. Graves relocated to the new municipal cemetery outside town. The land sat empty for nearly 30 years before housing development began. But there was a note, handwritten, clipped to the survey map. One plot boundary dispute unresolved. Relocation pending confirmation of ownership. The back bedroom sat directly over that plot. After that revelation, the haunting intensified. Not violently, decisively. One disturbance dominated everything else, the back bedroom door closing on its own. It happened every night within the same half-hour window, between 3:10 and 3:40 a.m. The sound was identical each time, slow movement, the faint creak of hinges, ending in a heavy, deliberate thud. Daniel tried blocking it with furniture. The door closed anyway, pushing the chair aside without toppling it. Margaret removed the door entirely one afternoon, leaving the frame open. That night, the sound of a door closing echoed through the house regardless. Inspector Gray witnessed it once more, standing in the hallway with Margaret and Daniel at 3:15 a.m., watching the empty doorway as the sound of a closing door reverberated through the space. He wrote nothing in his report about that visit. After that, the family stopped using the upstairs entirely. They slept downstairs, avoided the back bedroom, left the door open as a concession. For 3 nights, the house was quiet. Then, on a Thursday evening, while all 3 sat in the living room, Margaret reading, Daniel sketching, Emily coloring, the door upstairs closed. Same sound, same deliberate thud. No one was upstairs, no one had touched it. They sat in silence, listening to the echo fade. Emily looked up from her coloring. It just wants us to know it's still there. Margaret called the council the next morning to vacate the property. They didn't ask questions. Someone had been expecting the call. The house was never slept in again. The council reopened the site investigation quietly, without public notice. A small excavation team arrived within 2 weeks. They found remains, partial, degraded, but unmistakably human. The plot had been overlooked during the 1923 relocation due to a surveying error. 2 maps with conflicting boundary lines, neither corrected. The remains were ceremonially reinterred at the municipal cemetery. A small, unofficial marker was placed behind the house where the fence had collapsed, facing the scrubland. After that, the activity ceased completely. No final manifestation, no message, no dramatic conclusion. The house simply became inert. Number 29 was eventually converted into storage for the council's maintenance department. No one ever lived there again. Margaret moved the family to a flat in Norwich, closer to her work. Daniel went on to study architecture. Emily became a teacher. None of them spoke about Wycliffe Road often, but when they did, it was without fear. Just a strange, uncomfortable chapter that had ended the only way it could have, with acknowledgement. Because here's the thing that stayed with Margaret, the thing she'd think about sometimes late at night, when the house was quiet and the world felt vast and indifferent. The spirit never wanted attention. It never harmed anyone. It simply applied pressure, methodically, patiently, until humans corrected a mistake. Some places aren't haunted because something died there. They're haunted because something was ignored. We've reached the end of tonight's patrol. You can turn off your light now, but before you do, listen closely to the quiet. You know this isn't over. You know you'll be back to hear what's still waiting, back to walk these streets again with us. If the story kept you company tonight, if you felt something pacing just beyond the dark, don't let the silence claim you. Subscribe. Join the watch. Like and share this story so we know you heard us, so others can hear the footsteps too. And please, remember to lock your door before you try to sleep. We'll be waiting for you next week, same day at 3 a.m. Until then, try not to listen too closely.